trying to get everything situated. And I think this is going to be a fun show. Really looking forward to this Friday podcast here on the Louie T Network. I think I've got all my bells and whistles working. Let me check the mic. I should have done that before I got up here. We're good. We're good. Feels good. Feels good to be back behind the mic. We got a lot to get to today, man. You know, this vaccine shit is really getting out of control. Let's see if we can't reel that in today, among other topics. A lot of NFL things to get to. You know, camp is starting to rev up, so we've got some topics there. And we got some name change information to disseminate. So without any further ado, let's get to the proceedings this evening on the 183rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Let's go. Who else could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 183rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Looking forward to talking about all of the topics that we have on the docket today, but I do want to start out this show on a somber note. Rest in paradise to longtime NFL offensive coach Greg Knapp. I remember him very vividly with the San Francisco 49ers for a long stretch there. I want to say that he might have even gotten into it with T.O. on an occasion. He's been around the league for so long. Denver Broncos. He was with the Jets here recently. By all accounts, a really good dude. But I just remember him being one of those NFL lifers. And we see these guys all the time. These guys that just, they cease to exist without the NFL. And he was one of those dudes that I think was going to coach into his 70s. He had been around the league for so long. He got into an accident, a biking accident, about 4 or 5 days ago. And, you know, I hear biking accident and I'm thinking, unless you're on a motorcycle, and I don't know, he could have been on a motorcycle, you know, for all I know. Greg Knapp doesn't strike me as a motorcycle rider. It looks like he was riding his bike outside. And a car didn't see him, and they clipped him and took him down, and it was pretty gruesome and brutal. But he could have been on a motorcycle, whatever the case may be. He was in a really bad accident, and he was clinging to life. And I was just like, not Greg Knapp. Seriously? 58-year-old NFL coach? Down for the count, potentially? Like, it didn't make sense to me. And he succumbed to his injuries and passed away yesterday. Greg Knapp was 58 years old, and it's just way too early to go. Especially if it's not something, you know, out of your control. You're out riding your bike, you know. And again, I don't know what happened. I don't know the circumstances surrounding the accident itself and if he was in the wrong or not. It doesn't make any sense. But Greg Knapp, gone way too soon, age of 58. May he rest in paradise. So, wanted to start the show off with that. But the NFL, let's get to a much lighter note. The NFL currently laying the smackdown on its personnel, players, coaches alike, with this new policy and memo that they put out recently outlining what the season is going to look like. The upcoming 2021 season is going to look like in terms of COVID. And that's pretty much where we're going to start the show. I need to say this, though. I hope you guys have seen this. This is old. I think this came out about 2 weeks ago. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw this, and I had to show this to everyone that was close to me because I just found it so hilarious. And if you grew up in my era, you know, if you're around the same age as me or somewhere in that general vicinity, then it probably has a little bit more meaning to you specifically. But I was on Twitter minding my business. Okay. I wasn't bothering anybody. Okay. Early in the morning, just woke up, just decided to check Twitter just to make sure I hadn't missed anything while I was snoozing and recharging the battery. And I run across a Juvenile and Manny Fresh promo for vaccination. And it was a spoof, essentially, of Back That Ass Up. But it was back that Vax Up. Or, you know what I mean? Or get that Vax up or whatever. Or get Vaxxed up or whatever it was. And I just was floored. And I remember talking to my fiance and saying, look, get to the bag any way possible. By any means necessary, you got to get to the bag. You know, when you get to the point of your career you're at, when you're juvenile and you're Manny Fresh and the gigs aren't coming and the album sales and things of that nature aren't, you know, that ass up. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm like, wow, that is rich. So the NFL is pretty much saying, hey, y'all some real good players. Want you vax that thing up? We going to see if the coaches, because we had some coaches like, nah, I'm good. They're like, well, you got to carry your ass then. So let's get to the proceedings this evening, man. See what the hell is going on out here in these streets. You know how we kick off every show. Don't act brand new. You know I do not like when you try to act brand new. So just sit down, fall in line, and let your man Louie T drop this gem on your melon. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, the NFL lays the smackdown on its personnel with a COVID-19 memo that it sent league-wide yesterday. And this has been brewing for quite some time. I knew the NFL was going to do something big and grandiose this upcoming season. I did not think they were going to be as lax as they were a week ago. So I kind of saw this one coming. But what I didn't necessarily see coming was how harsh they were going to progress with their COVID-19 protocols. So as one source within the NFL put it, the players right now feel like the NFL pulled the rug from under their feet. The NFL essentially, in one fell swoop, and I don't know when this took place, but this is exactly what's happened. This player or players that are feeling this way, and this person that is inside the NFLPA that wants to remain anonymous, said that the players feel like the NFL went from, hey, it's your choice. You can make an educated decision on whatever you feel like it suits you and your family the best, to, hey, here it is. You have to do this or else. And it happened pretty damn quick. I mean, we were literally just talking about, hey, if you reach XYZ percentage of players vaccinated, you get certain perks that can help you be maybe a little bit more effective on game day or game weeks, preparing for upcoming opponents. Things won't be as strenuous, like travel and restrictions within the facility and things of that nature. You know, maybe if you are COVID-19 positive one day, you get tested the next day and you're negative, and you get tested again and you're negative, then you don't have to miss the game if there's a big enough window between when you test positive and when you test negative, things like that. We thought those were going to be some of the perks that came with having those vaccination rates be as high as possible and crossing that 85% threshold that the NFL set for all of its teams. It went from that to, hey, here it is. Either you get in line, you get down, or you lay down. Essentially is what they came with, some state property bullshit on their personnel. Either you get in line or you lay down. So they essentially said, hey, we ain't doing all of that rescheduling shit we did last year. You know, everybody had to deal with COVID. We were kind of, maneuvering pieces around. Everybody had to kind of react to what was happening, and we had to make moves while standing on our toes last year. We flat-footed this year. We putting our foot down. We were on our tippy toes making decisions last year. We didn't want to step on anybody's feelings, and we wanted to make sure we accommodated everybody. We wanted to play all 256 last year. Nah, we making sure we're not really looking to accommodate anybody. What we did to the Denver Broncos last year, you thought that was bad when we made them play with Kendall Hinton at quarterback? Because we thought somebody had COVID-19 in that quarterback room? You thought that was bad? Wait till you see what we doing to teams this year. We filleting teams this year that don't want to get in line with the COVID-19 protocols. Keep in mind when we talk about these things, all of these things that we are referencing are of a company that is privately owned. They can do whatever they like. Yeah. All of these teams are individual privately owned entities under an umbrella company that is also privately owned. So again, they can do whatever they want. They can set the rules and parameters. So you have to keep that in mind. Okay. You don't want to follow the rules, then you don't have to work there. This isn't one of these places with there's, it's set up where it's out in the open and, you can take them to court because of this, that, and the third. Nah, they own this business. They set the rules. So yeah, you have to keep that in mind. But I didn't think we would get to a point where the NFL was essentially mandating that you get the vaccine. That's essentially what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to have this herd immunity, and they're trying to force people to do something that's supposed to be optional. I didn't think they were going to do that. I should have known better, though. A wise woman once told me, you should have known better. I should have known better. I should have known better that the NFL was going to try to do this. And I've said this a million times, and I'm probably going to say it a million more. Sports are usually a microcosm of things to come in society. And seeing what the NFL is doing, don't be surprised when you see some professions out there in the workforce take to this model that the NFL has set forth and try to force their employees to get vaccinated, especially if their specific industry requires their employees to be present on a site, on a job site, amongst one another. If you're spread out, you're 6 feet apart, maybe they don't care about that. Maybe it's still optional, but I'm not going to be shocked when I start hearing people say, I'm not getting the vaccine, so I'm going to have to quit my job, this, that, and the third. But it's just crazy where we've gotten with this thing. The NFL saying, look, we're not accommodating anyone. If you're not one of these teams with 95% vaccination rates, you're lagging behind. You got 62%, and you run into an outbreak. Oh, we are gonna just bitch slap the hell out of you. We are looking to, and they said, look, not only if there's an outbreak and we have to postpone a game, not only are we not going to bend over backwards to make sure that game gets played, you're going to be forced to forfeit. And this is the big kicker. It's because there are players out there, they don't want to forfeit a game, but they're like, okay, whatever. They're like, oh, and just so you know, you're not getting paid. That's the part that's going to get players to really open their eyes and say, what? Because dudes can't afford to go without a paycheck. It's one thing if you're like, hey, we gonna, make you forfeit, but you still get paid for that game. You're still gonna get that week's game check. Players will be like, man, that's some bullshit, but okay, I'm still getting my bread. They said, no. You don't play in the game. You're not getting paid. That gets the players' attention. Okay? You know, it's not the 15-yard penalty that really makes players stop and think about having a player go over the middle and decapitating them. Nah, it ain't the 15-yard penalty. You'll take a 15-yard penalty to send a message. It's that FedEx envelope that you're going to get in your locker on Wednesday with the league docking you $15,000, $25,000. That's the shit that's going to stop you from thinking about hitting that guy over the middle. When they start hitting you in your wallet, that's when you start making conscious decisions to make different things happen and have different outcomes. So the NFL also made sure they were petty enough to say, oh yeah, we're not paying your ass, just so you know. Okay, if a game gets canceled, everybody's gonna feel the wrath of that shit, you know. So I was shocked last year that we didn't have any cancellations, but the NFL was trying to be accommodating last year. There were already no fans in the stands, so they felt obligated to play all 256. This year they're like, nope, got fans back in the stands. You have a clear outline to follow. We requested that everybody get over 85% vaccination rates, but they didn't put their foot down early in the offseason. They kind of threw this in because I think they were hoping that they didn't have to do this. Like, everyone was just going to be on board and there was going to be this herd immunity. And by the time they showed up to training camp, all 32 teams would be above that 85% threshold. And there would be no need for them to come down with this violent hammer. But then they looked around, and as they got close to training camp, there were 4 teams below 50. And as they got even closer, there were still 2 teams below 50. And then when they got right to the point where teams were showing up and reporting for training camp, everybody was over 50, but there were still several teams underneath the 75% threshold and a bunch of teams still under the 85% threshold. And so they said, okay, they thought we were bullshitting. We didn't want to have to do this, but here it is. And so then you get into the nitty gritty of this thing, right? All tier 1 employees must be vaccinated unless they have religious reasons as to not be vaccinated, or they have a pre-existing medical condition that stops them from getting vaccinated. So essentially what they're saying is if you're a tier 1 employee, so that's front office, coaching staff, that's where you cut that off at. Players are not tier 1 employees. It's mandatory. You don't have a choice. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty goddamn aggressive. Ballsy even. Because not everybody is sold on the vaccine, and I get it. But we've gotten to a position now, and I didn't think we would get here. Vikings offensive line coach and run game coordinator Rick Dennison steps away from the team after not agreeing to a COVID vaccination. Shocked. He wants no parts of the vaccine. He doesn't comply with the NFL's guidelines. He has to go. Okay. Moments later, Patriots co-offensive line coach Cole Popovich also got popped for not wanting to comply with the NFL's guidelines of tier 1 employees having to be vaccinated. I'm at a loss. I didn't see this coming, and maybe I should have, but I didn't. And I don't think these will be the last guys that get popped. I don't. Not all of these coaches are on board with getting vaccinated, just like all players are not on board. I feel like players and coaches should be held to the same standard. And I don't think any of them should be forced to do anything. I think the front office types should be, held to a certain standard. but when you get in that building, these guys, they're pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into this product. This is all they do. A lot of times, especially with the coaching staff, these coaches during the season, they don't have time to hang out and do all of this other stuff. They're dedicated to this thing. These guys are lifers a lot of times. So whether they get the shot or not, or they want to be vaccinated or not, those aren't the people you should be worried about more so than anything else. It's really the players, but I didn't think they would, put the coaches in a position where they had to make a decision. They've done that. I think the coaches and the players should be in the same spot. The players aren't going to be forced to do this. Now, there could be locker room peer pressure. And I talked about this yesterday because there were viewers of the Washington live stream last night that said, do you think that the other players in the locker room are going to try to peer pressure other players that aren't vaccinated to get the vaccine? And I felt like it's a brotherhood in that locker room. And, almost like, a contract situation when it comes to, another player's money, it's an unspoken rule. We don't talk about other people's bread. We kind of leave that up to that player and, the powers that be. We don't talk about somebody else's money. You don't affect another man's bread. And with this vaccine, I kind of felt like it was a similar principle. I think they will actually be having active conversations within the locker room. And I've heard players already say, yeah, we're talking about it. But I think that because it's a brotherhood, every player in that locker room is going to respect, someone else's decision with the understanding, hey, look, bro, you know what it is. Because you decided not to get vaccinated, you're going to have to really be on your shit to make sure that you don't compromise yourself or the rest of the team. But that understanding goes with the territory of not getting vaccinated. A player knows, hey, I'm choosing not to get the vaccine, so I know what I got to do. And it's not like this is the first time this happened. Last year, it was the same situation last year. These guys are in the same position. Don't jeopardize yourself and in turn jeopardize this team because you want to go out and have a good time. Make sure that you keep it professional at all times and make sure you keep not only yourself safe, but you keep the rest of these guys, your brothers in this locker room, safe as well. I think guys are going to still adhere to that, whether they're vaccinated or not. So I don't think there's going to be a peer pressure, but I say that. And then you've got Cole Beasley and Jerry Hughes having a verbal spat on Twitter about getting vaccinated. Jerry Hughes is a pro-vax guy, and we know where Cole Beasley sits on this. He's a staunch detractor of getting COVID vaccine. So he's already said, I'm willing to retire. I've had a great career. I love what this league has afforded me in my life. And if I don't play another down, I'm content with what I've been able to do in my career and the money that I've made. But I am not getting this vaccine. He's already made it abundantly clear. That's where he stands on this topic. And so I'm a glass half full guy, and I can be naive at times. And I was just hoping that players would just say, you know what? We all grown men in here. We all make our own decisions. But at the end of the day, understand that if you don't get vaccinated, you have an even greater responsibility to take care of yourself than the rest of us who are vaccinated. But that's not going to stop us from doing what we need to do. Let's go win ball games. I think that's going to be the prevailing thought in every single locker room is, hey, not everybody believes in getting the vaccine. We're not all on the same page here. That's cool. It's almost like political stances. Not everybody is on the same page with politics. There was probably some division in some of these locker rooms as to where they stood and who they wanted to vote for. But guess what? That wasn't going to stop guys from going out and playing as one on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays. That wasn't going to stop guys from going out there and doing what they needed to do. So I kind of liken it to that. Like, it's a similar situation for me. So I don't think that this thing will be divisive in locker rooms, but it could become one of those situations. It could morph into that. Absolutely. Especially if you've got someone as as aggressive as Cole Beasley has been on not getting vaccinated, like, you know who the worst people are? The worst people are the people that have agendas, especially the people that are overly religious and they try to put that off on you. And you're like, look, man, I just want to watch the game. Stop talking to me about Jesus Christ right now. And I love me some JC. That's my guy. But I don't want to hear that right now. Let me watch the game in peace. And every time you see that guy, you know what he's about. You know he's spreading the word, and you're like, I don't really feel like dealing with that right now. Cole Beasley strikes me as one of those dudes on this subject matter right now. Like, even when you're not asking him about COVID-19 and you're not looking for that conversation, he's trying to give you all the smoke. And you're like, bro, I was asking you, where were you going to sit down on this curl route in cover 2? I wasn't asking you about COVID and getting the vaccine, but yet he wants to give you all the smoke there. Like, those are the types of guys that are going to cause problems in the locker room. Potentially, you know. And again, I don't know Cole Beasley, and he may not be one of those dudes looking for all the smoke, but it feels like he is. I could easily see Cole Beasley getting cut based off of this. I could, especially if they feel like he's going to become a problem in that locker room. He's such a good football player. They want him on the team, but there's also camaraderie. There's also cohesiveness that you could be at stake if you have a guy that is somewhat divisive on the topic. So, you know, it's amazing, you know, how many players spoke up. DeAndre Hopkins had a tweet where he was all in his feels. I hate when players do this. When a subject comes up or your first reaction to something is off the cuff, keep that shit to yourself. You're more than welcome to have that initial emotional reaction to something. Don't run the socials with your emotions, though. That's when you get into trouble. And he starts talking about, you know, I didn't think it would come to this. I got to start questioning my future in the NFL. Bro, you're not retiring. Stop with the nonsense and tomfoolery. He quickly recanted and took that off of socials. Why did you put it up there in the first place? We know you're not retiring. You just in your feelings, bro. I get it. It's a frustrating situation. I didn't think you would be here. You didn't think you would be here. I get it. Keep that shit off of socials, though. Because we all know the truth. You ain't retiring. You're not going to give it up. You making too much money. This is affording you a lifestyle that you never could have imagined. You're not giving that shit up. So, I said all of that to say this. The NFL did what I thought it was going to do, which is try to put the pressure on teams and players to adhere to a much stricter policy on COVID-19. What I did not account for was that they would take it to this extent where they're essentially forcing people to get vaccinated, or vaccine shaming people where, hey, look, you don't get the vaccination, you don't get the vax, could be problems for you. People don't respond well to being peer pressured into things. A wise woman once told me, you attract more bees with honey than you do vinegar. Sometimes you have to take the tactful route if you want something done. When you do it the brute force way, you get pushback and problems ensue. It's their company. They can do whatever the hell they want to do, as I reiterated at the top of this show. So whether guys are upset or not, they can be as mad as they want to be, but at the end of the day, the NFL is in control of this. They don't have to work this out with the NFLPA or any of that. They get to make the rules here on this particular subject matter. They've already spoken, and now it's up to the staffs of these teams and these players to come together and figure out a way to play, whether you're vaccinated or not, and try to find a way to play 17 games during the regular season. I told you this, and I'm going to continue to say this because I truly feel this in my heart of hearts. Until it becomes an issue, it's not an issue. People are going to make it an issue. If you're a player, you feel some type of way, you're going to speak out about it. I'm not a player. I'm not in the league. I just consume the product. It's not a problem for me. This isn't impacting me one way or the other. The only way this becomes an issue is if we start having games postponed or canceled. That's when this starts to become an issue. And I was an advocate last year of, hey, you want to be disrespectful to the game and you want to, be bold and come in and not do the things that the NFL set out in their guidelines to do to keep yourself and your teammates safe. All right. I was a fan of levying forfeits last year, raining down forfeits. I thought the Titans and the Ravens should have both forfeited last year. I was on record of saying that. Especially the Ravens. They were so disrespectful, parading around without masks on and feeling like it was okay. And then you had that COVID outbreak towards the tail end of the season. No. Make them, don't start moving around games on the schedule for their ass. They want to do stupid shit. Give them a loss and keep it pushing. Get a Steelers a win, get them a loss, let's move on. That's how I felt. No. The Titans want to be the first team to F up in the NFL. Make an example out of their ass. Give Buffalo the win. Don't move this shit to a random ass Tuesday. Don't impact the rest of the NFL schedule behind this shit. We lost a crucial Bills-Chiefs Thursday night game over this shit. Don't move the Bills games around. They didn't do anything wrong. Don't make the Bills suffer. Tell the Titans, kiss my ass, give them a loss, give the Bills the win, let's move on. I was in favor of that last year. What I'm not in favor of is them pretty much saying, hey, got to get the vaccine or else. And even if you want to go down the or else path, well, we're going to try to get the other players in the locker room to do our dirty work by making them feel obligated to put the pressure on you to get vaccinated so that you don't impact them. That's bullshit. But touche, NFL. Touche. You did what you set out to do all along, which is push this agenda, this narrative. And we'll see how it goes. I mean, we know how it's going to go. These teams are going to conform. Because at the end of the day, you know what's the most important thing? All about the money. Money. Money, 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 money. Money. It's all about the money, man. And it always will be. Almighty dollar. For that mean green. Got some comments in the comment section, some super chats. So I want to knock these out real quick. Got a super chat here from Emperor Meech. Thank you for the super chat, Emperor Meech. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Emperor Meech, writes, you're like 2 weeks late about that juvenile clip. I think I said that when I made the statement. I said that this video came out like 2 weeks ago. I was weak. I didn't think I would have to make the comment about it because I didn't think it would be such a big deal to bring it up on the show. I thought it was funny. I think a lot of things are funny. I don't bring them up on the show, but I didn't think we would be having this vaccine conversation. And that's what made me think about it. But I saw that video 2 weeks ago. I already stated that. He says, personally think it's insulting, but I'm not going to get political or racial about that, though. Are you talking about the video, the juvenile thing, or are you talking about the NFL policy? Help me out. That's what I want to know what you're talking about there. Cruisin26, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Cruisin26 writes, Big Blue Invasion. Don't be scared. Nobody's afraid, trust me. Maybe we should be, since we can't seem to beat Daniel Jones, but nobody's afraid, trust me. The Giants are on everyone's radar, and no one's afraid. No one's afraid. Thank you for the super chat, Cruisin26. Um, Silver V, my guy Silver Villains. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Silver V writes, between first year head coaches and first year quarterbacks, which ones benefited from empty stadiums last year due to COVID? And will we see a regression? I don't think any first year quarterbacks benefited from, empty stadiums necessarily, or anything to do with COVID, because you want more time with the coaching staff. You want more time at the facility, not less as a rookie. So I don't think any rookies benefited from COVID-19 and not having OTAs and mini camps and not having preseason games and the abbreviated, training camp. Nobody benefited from that as a young player. The veterans did. They don't want to be at any of those things any damn way. But the young players, they suffered last year. And it was amazing to see some of those guys still come out and perform the way that they did. But as far as coaching staffs are concerned, nobody benefited from COVID-19. That wasn't a benefit to anyone. I think if I would say anybody benefited from COVID-19 as a coach, it'll be a first-year coach that struggled last year, because you could use that as a built-in crutch and say, hey, last year was rough. It was rough on everybody as a first-year head coach. You didn't get to put your hands on your players the way that you normally would, and so it was a tough transitional period for me and my staff. You can use that as an excuse. So if you struggled last year, now they're going to be a segment of the fan base that doesn't want to hear that shit, and they're going to say, hey, look at what the Cleveland Browns did with their first year head coach, and how they, he took them to the playoffs, didn't even coach the playoff game, won them a playoff game. We don't want to hear that shit. Some guys came in and they were able to implement their scheme and their system, win over the trust of their players, and win a bunch of ball games. Why couldn't you do that? But I don't think there's anyone that actually benefited from, COVID or empty stadiums. Like, I think the defense benefited from empty stadiums. They could hear the offense. They could hear all the calls. So they were able to maybe check at the line of scrimmage and get into different things. That's the only benefit I thought, was that you could hear every single thing on the football field. So, offenses had to really adjust to different things like hand signals and using different ways to non-verbally communicate so that the defense wouldn't be able to get a read on what was being done on the football field. So outside of that, I don't think there were many advantages at all last season. Thank you for that super chat, Silver V. Got another super chat here from Emperor Meech. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Emperor Meech. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, Emperor Meech. Right, so the music video is okay. So you thought the video itself was actually a bit demeaning and disrespectful. I don't necessarily disagree with that. That doesn't take away from the fact that I thought it was funny. I thought it did lack taste, but I knew what they were trying to do, so I didn't take it personal, and I didn't get bent out of shape about it. But I can understand where you're coming from. Absolutely. He says, also the Giants QB is still ass. That is correct, but he has a chance to prove that he's not ass this year. But right now, yeah, I'd agree with that assessment. Daniel Jones, right now, is the third best quarterback in the division, or you can say he's the second to last quarterback in the division. Any way you want to word it, whatever makes you feel better, that's where he sits in the division right now. So, Gary Clutch Clark, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Gary Clutch Clark writes, looks like the Washington football team will face the Saints without Michael Thomas and Breeze, of course. Thoughts? I don't know what is going to happen. Looks like Michael Thomas, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show, but looks like he's going to start the season off on the PUP list. I don't know Washington's schedule, by heart, so I don't know where and when we play the Saints. I'm assuming, because you said what you just said, that it's early in the season. We'll see what happens. I'll give my thoughts on Michael Thomas's situation a little bit later on in the show. But I look, Only teams that I generally want them to be at full strength when we play them are divisional teams. But at the same time, if I can get a team when they're less than at 100%, I'm all for that too. Any competitive advantage I can get, I'm looking to take. You know, the only reason I like to have the division teams have their shit is because I don't want to hear any excuses when we bust your ass or when we find a way to win. Oh, we didn't have our best running back, this, that, the third. I don't give a shit about that, you know, because that's the same thing you're going to throw in our face when you beat us. And we didn't have our best running back. So I don't want to hear the shit. At the end of the day, though, I'm over here begging for Saquon Barkley to not be ready for week 2. I'm like, yo, come back week 3. No need to rush it. It's a quick turnaround after week 1, too. You might as well just sit out the first 2 games and then come back week 3. Hit the ground running. So I'm over here begging. On one hand, I'm begging for Saquon not to play, but on the other hand, I'm like, yo, it is what it is. Whether Michael Thomas is in the lineup or not, I'm cool with it. I would like to, in order to be the best, you can't run from stiff competition. In order to be the best, you got to beat the best. So while I would love to play the Chiefs without Mahomes, what does that really do? You may win and that may help you get to the postseason, but if you really want to find out how good your team is, you want to play them with Patrick Mahomes so you can find out where we are in terms of in the league's pantheon of teams. Where do we rank? It's a litmus test. So how do we do? Did we fail the test? Did we pass the test? How far do we have to go? If that's the best the league has to offer, how do we play against Brady and the Bucks? If that's the best the league has to offer, well, shit, we right there. That's what you want to be able to tell yourself. You can't tell yourself that if you beat the Chad Henne-led Kansas City Chiefs. That doesn't have the same feel to it. If Matt Moore is leading the Kansas City Chiefs, you can't be excited about that victory. So, at the end of the day, I would love to see the Saints without Michael Thomas. That would heighten our chances of winning that ball game. So, we'll see what happens there. Thank you for the super chat. Gary Clutch Clark. Got one here from Gunny Man. Thank you for the super chat, Gunny Man. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Gunny Man, writes, what's your breaking point? Mine was the ability to be around my parents / see my kids. So there will have to be the ability to earn millions or not. There's definitely a breaking point. You know, there are certain things that we as people make conscious decisions to either have or not have. That's part of our civil liberties. You make decisions every day that are going to impact your livelihood, are going to impact you and your family. And so you're mindful of those things. And everyone has things that they deem to be deal breakers. You know, things that I'm willing to sacrifice and things that I am not. And a lot of times, one of those items is family. I'm not willing to put my family in jeopardy or sacrifice my family or my time with them or this, that, and the third. You know, there is always a line in the sand that you're willing to draw and you say, I'm not going to cross that line. I'll do a lot of things. I'm not doing that because that could cost me this. I think for a lot of these players, especially the young ones that don't have families, they like, look, I need my money. You know, and we hear this with players all the time. They know about the risk, the rules, and the parameters of the game that they play, the sport that they love. They know that there's a very significant chance that they're going to do damage, irreparable damage to their bodies. Not just their brains. You know, some of these guys are going to walk away from the game with pinkies that are bent the wrong way, with legs that don't bend the same, that are straight, with limps, with back pain that'll never go away. They know the rules. They know the risks. They know the wrongs. They know the rights. But still, they wouldn't trade the game for the life that it could create. So, Jay Cutler, I was reading an article with Jay Cutler a week ago. And he's like, I think I'm having the early signs of CTE. Like, I forget things all the time that I didn't used to forget, and I'm doing my best to try to strengthen my brain and hold it off as long as I can. I'm doing fish oil, I'm cutting back on the sweets. And then they follow-up question to that was, damn, Jay, so would you play football? You damn right. Without hesitation, I'd do it all over again. They know what they're signing up for. You know why? Because the next generation and the generation after that, they don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, or, can I provide for my family? They're already taken care of because of the sacrifices Jay Cutler made for them. And he can sleep at night knowing that. And that's what the NFL and sports in general provide for these players. So they're not giving that up. A lot of these guys are not. Not to make a political statement. Some guys are willing to do that. Muhammad Ali was willing to go to jail so that he didn't have to go and fight a war that he didn't believe in. That's not today's athlete, okay? Most guys aren't willing to make those types of sacrifices. He left a lot of money on the table. Either way, he was going to do that. He figured, well, shit, if I'm going to leave the money on the table, I'd rather do it in a jail cell. Some of his prime years of his career were spent rotting away in a jail cell. He said, this is the fight that I'm willing to, and the stance I'm willing to take for this fight that I believe in. And I don't, and this is not the same thing. This is not an apples to apples situation. I just said that to say this. He stood for something he believed in, and he was willing to leave money on the table to do it. There are guys that are like that. Cole Beasley, it's a little bit different because Cole's already made good money. However, most guys aren't willing to leave the kind of money that is going to be on the table because they don't want to take a vaccine. Or, and in the case of the NFL, you don't have to take the vaccine. They're not tier 1 employees. They don't have to take the vaccine. They just got to be extra careful. So, everybody's got a breaking point, as you said. And I think the inability to earn is the breaking point for most of these players. So, I don't think it's going to force them to get the vaccine. If they don't want to get it, they're not going to get it. They just need to be careful. It's going to force them to be extra careful, which they should have been doing anyway. Got another super chat. This one is from Gunny Man as well. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Gunny Man. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Gunny Man, writes, happy born day, bro. P.S. Let them teas go. Oh, man. You're not going to quit, huh? I'm going to work on getting those teas up on the site, man. Gunny, I love your persistence, man. I love your persistence. Anyway, I digress. We're going to take a quick break, get a word from one of our sponsors, and then we're going to come back on the other side and jump into, in case you missed it, you are dialed in to the 183rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. We'll take this quick break, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Thank you for joining me. I want to take this time to thank Manscaped for sponsoring the Louie T Network podcast. The Olympics, Euros, baseball, major championships, and concerts are all in this summer. You know what isn't? A wild and hairy bush. Tame your pubes with the help from our friends over at Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming. Their 4th generation performance package includes the brand new Lawnmower 4.0. That's right, 4.0. If an athlete treats their body like royalty, why not treat your pubes like Olympic gold? Fellas, do right by your balls and join the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com and using the promo code LouieT. The world is starting to open, and the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped is here to help you get ready. Inside, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and hair nose trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, plus 2 free gifts, Performance boxer briefs, and the Shed travel bag. Talk about a world-class dismount into post-quarantine world. This package is the perfect package for your package and peak performance in whatever sport you desire. The brand new Lawnmower 4.0 is here to take the podium. This fourth generation trimmer features an edge-cutting ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 also has a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on and off switch which can engage a travel lock and gives you the ability to turn the 4K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Did I mention this trimmer is waterproof too? Michael Phelps is drooling just thinking about the possibilities. This package also comes with the Weed Whacker to chop your worst weeds up top in both your nose and your ear. This tool is a lock to take home gold in the biathlon. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor powered 360-degree rotary dual blade system. This nose and ear trimmer provides proprietary skin-safe technology which prevents nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate holes. After trimming your pubes, then show some sportsmanship with Manscaped's liquid formulations. The Crop Preserver, Ball Deodorant, and Crop Reviver Ball Toner are the key to feeling victorious this year. Manscaped also threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. So with all that said, head over to manscaped.com and get 20% off plus free shipping with the code LouieT. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code LouieT at manscaped.com. Achieve pubic glory this year with Manscaped. And trust me when I tell you this, your balls will. Welcome back to the 183rd installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. If you are out there and you haven't had a chance to do so, please do me a huge solid by hitting the subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. Also, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. I know it doesn't always work all the time, but turn it on anyway. And also, please hit the like button. Doesn't cost you anything, doesn't hurt. Just hit the like button to continue to support the Louie T Network. So let's jump into our next segment. In case you missed it, Seattle Seahawks are planning to offer Jamal Adams a record deal for a safety. Now, the Seahawks have also said that they would like to keep Bobby Wagner as the highest paid defensive player on their team. And there's a pecking order that goes on in an NFL locker room and really in any locker room. I've talked about this already. It's the reason the Dolphins have an issue on their hands with their best player in Xavier Howard. When you start paying other guys, especially if they haven't been there, but it doesn't really matter whether that guy's been there or not. When you start paying guys more than your best players, problems ensue. There needs to be a pecking order. In order to keep justice and order in a locker room, guys need to know where they stand. And the way you do that is by having essentially a pay scale. And your best player needs to be the highest paid player in your locker room. Now, obviously, if your best player is on a rookie contract and they're in their second or third year in the league, well, what does that say about your roster if the best player on your team is a second-year guy? That's one. But, sometimes it happens. A guy going into the third year of his contract or the fourth year of his contract on a rookie deal is your best player, and he hasn't gotten to that second contract yet. He hasn't gotten to the real bag yet. Those situations happen. However, they're rare, okay? A lot of times your best player needs to be paid as such, and so they don't want to pay Jamal Adams more than Bobby Wagner. Wagner is the clear leader of that team. You could argue defensively, you could argue the team. I think Russell Wilson is still that guy, but I think Wagner may be the overall leader of that football team. And they want to make sure they keep that structure of him having the most bread. That said, we've talked about this Jamal Adams situation from afar. We've done it multiple times on this podcast. And we've talked about him viewing himself as a playmaker, not just a safety. So there are a couple of benchmarks that they're going to have to eclipse if they want to appease Jamal Adams. Remember, he was talking, $100 million, somewhere in that neighborhood when he was looking at the deal that he wanted to sign. I don't know if the Seahawks had that in mind. Keep in mind, Bobby Wagner, if I'm not mistaken, is making somewhere in that $18-19 million per year range. So I don't think they are looking to exceed that with Jamal Adams' contract. But the highest paid contract, the highest overall contract on paper, Landon Collins is 6-year, $84 million deal. So they'll need to exceed that. All right. If we're talking per annual average salary, the highest in the league at the safety position is Justin Simmons, who just signed a long-term deal with the Denver Broncos, which will pay him $15.25 million per year. He's looking to dwarf that. And then Landon Collins got the most guaranteed money in his contract, $44.5 million from Washington. So he's going to probably want more guaranteed bread than Landon Collins. So these are all benchmarks that the Seahawks will probably have to exceed when talking turkey with Jamal Adams. I think this is going to be somewhere in the $90-95 million range. Again, they're going to want to keep this thing under the amount that they paid Bobby Wagner. I'm thinking it's going to probably be 5 years, $90 million. That'll be the highest of any safety in the league, and it would also put him at $18 million per year, which will dwarf Justin Simmons, $15 million, a little over $15 million per year. And then I think with that 90, he'll probably be looking for upwards of 50 of it guaranteed, which will also eclipse Landon Collins' $44 million and a half of guaranteed money. So that's going to be a very substantial deal when it's done, whenever that gets done and finalized. But look for that to happen here in the very near future. In case you missed it, Green Bay Packers and their star wideout Davante Adams have broken off contract talks, and reportedly they're in a bad place. This is not a surprise to me, and I think I told you guys this maybe last episode or the episode prior to that I said it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Davante Adams' contract situation, because I don't think he wants to make a move not knowing the status of Aaron Rodgers, and also not really knowing what Jordan Love is. And remember, his best friend is Derek Carr. Carr has already made it known that he's going to make an all-out pitch for Davante Adams to come to Vegas next year. Adams has already said it would be a dream come true to play with my best friend. And I've said this already. The Packers aren't a team that loves to pay wide receivers. They're not a team that loves to draft first-round wide receivers. They think they're the smartest in the room when it comes to receivers, which is why they don't spend high draft capital. A lot of times, first-round pick, to be specific, first-round capital on receivers. They feel like, get a guy in the second, which they got Davante Adams in the second. We can get a guy in the third or the fourth or the fifth. We can get an undrafted guy and make it work. Well, we'll see if they can continue to do that. They didn't pay Greg Jennings when he was a free agent. We'll see if they decide to pay Davante Adams or not. I think Davante Adams is probably looking to get out. And remember, we had a whole show where I talked about the Packers sucking, next year. Losing Adams, and again, he's not in total control of this situation, as we've stated. If they really love him, they don't want him to go, they've always got the franchise tag to hold on to him for one more year. So he's not totally in control of his fate. However, it'll be interesting to see what the Packers decide to do. If they want to tie up that much, cap space into one player, and they're not going to have Aaron Rodgers next year. They'll have him this year. They won't have him next year. Could they be without both Rodgers and Adams next season? Highly unlikely, but I wouldn't rule it out. But reportedly, they're in a bad place from a contracts talk standpoint. I don't think he wants to be there past this year, but we'll see. In case you missed it, Pat star cornerback Stephon Gilmore shows up at New England Patriots training camp. Aha! Aha! But he's on the PUP list with a quad injury that ended his season last year. And I'm thinking to myself, that quad is going to be pretty damn tight until something gets done, man. Quad just doesn't feel right till that new money comes in. Man, quads, I tried to stretch it. That quad feels pretty tight, man. Think I need some more time. It'll be amazing to see how quickly that quad heals up when he gets his bread. But right now, that quad's really tight, man. Can't even stretch it out all the way. Gonna need some time. I see what you're doing there, Steph. I like it. I like it a lot. That's gonna be really fun to watch because the Patriots doctors are gonna clear this dude, and if he hasn't gotten his bread, he's gonna be like, "Yo, man, the quad's still bothering me, man." I know what they're telling you. I feel like I still got a knot in my quad right now, though. So, yeah, about that money though. How's that going? Yeah? Nah, you haven't figured that out yet? Well, yeah, the quad feels tight, man. So I'm going to sit over here. You guys figure that out. And when you do, I think the quad will magically feel a lot better. So that's going to be fun. That's a nice little stare off there in a game of chicken. And technically, he's in the perfect position to win this battle of chicken. Because they can't tell him when he's healthy. So that's a good move. That's a really good play by Stephon Gilmore. Smart on the part of his agent to say, no. We're not going to play hardball. The CBA doesn't back us doing it that way. Which is why everyone told, I didn't understand why Trent Williams' agent didn't say, Trent, bro, don't give up a year of bread. Go to camp. Try a helmet on and say, man, I'm having issues. My head still doesn't feel right. Make them put you on the PUP list or IR and still get your bread. And you could have still made your statement and got out of Washington. But he didn't want to do that. That's fine. I mean, it doesn't matter now. Man just signed a $100 million contract. One of the richest contracts in NFL history. He's not worried about money. So anyway, I digress. In case you missed it, Zach Ertz may start the season off as a Philadelphia Eagle. We sat here all off season, and I just finished having an episode talking about unhappy campers. I left Zachary Ertz off that list. Why? Because I said maybe Zachary Ertz isn't as unhappy as we first thought. And now we're starting to see that, Haven't really heard him bitching and complaining about wanting out like we did early in the offseason. Seems like they've mended fences a bit. And remember, he's only got 1 year left on his deal. Not many teams anxious to trade away big-time draft capital for an aging tight end that was all types of banged up last year, set career lows in multiple statistical categories because he wasn't able to play. And this is the biggest part of all of this. He only has 1 year left on his deal. He could be a 1 year rental. Nobody's giving up big draft capital for a 1 year rental. Are you crazy? So the Eagles set the bar high, like, hey, this is what we want for him. Teams are like, are you crazy? They're like, no, you want him? This is what you got to give up. They said, all right, well, we're good. So Eagles are like, hey, Zach, still got a year left on that deal, man. What you think about playing for us? He's like, well, I don't really have a choice, do I? He's like, nah, you really don't. Okay, well, I'm going to be there. So looks like the Eagles are going to have Zach Ertz in the fold when the season gets underway. And, obviously it's a fluid situation. Shit could change very rapidly. All it takes is one major injury to a team that feels like they've got Super Bowl aspirations, and all of a sudden the Eagles' phone rings and they're getting a call for Zach Ertz and someone's willing to give up a third round pick. That's all it takes. The Eagles didn't plan on trading Sam Bradford to the Minnesota Vikings, but Teddy Bridgewater goes down in a heap. The Vikings thought that they were in a position to win and win big, so they trade for Sam Bradford. That's all the Eagles are waiting on, is for someone to have a major injury and maybe their phone to heat up. We'll see if that happens, but as of right now, it looks like Ertz may be in Philadelphia, which is something we didn't think we would be able to say when training camp rolled around. In case you missed it, Saints wide receiver Michael Thomas expected to miss the start of the season after having surgery to repair a torn ligament in his ankle. I didn't know that some of the injuries from last year was going to spill over into this year for Michael Thomas. That situation in New Orleans seems a little bit off. Would you agree with that? Like, the guy, he barely played last year. There were rumors that he wanted out. He didn't refute those rumors. You felt like, okay, shit, you barely played last year. All right, get all the shit you need to get fixed in the offseason. Be ready for the start of camp next year. Feel like he's had enough time to get all this shit done and be ready? I don't know that man's body, and I told you I don't like to play the injury game because I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. But it just feels like Michael Thomas is kind of like, it's kind of like I'm not going to go out of my way to make sure that I do everything I can to help this organization out. And it kind of all coincides with him getting that bread. He got paid that astronomical contract, and it seems like shit hasn't been right since. We'll see. I could be way off base with this. Guy can't play if he's got an injured ankle. He had surgery on it. Now he needs to heal. I may be way off base. He may come back, tear shit up like he never left, and, the rest is history. But it just feels a little off right now. Some of the decisions he's making, some of the decisions they are making, it just feels like they're not on the same page. I didn't think we would be having this discussion about Michael Thomas potentially not being ready for the start of the season due to an injury that lingered from last season. I didn't think that would be the discussion, especially after the man barely played last year. So, I don't know. I digress. The assumption now for me is that he starts the season off on the PUP list, and then they'll go from there. They'll monitor him, and they'll see when he's ready, and try to have him back. Probably around week 4 or 5, maybe 6, somewhere around there. So, not a great situation to be in if you're the Saints, but at the end of the day, Michael Thomas. They don't have a lot on offense. I talked about that already. They got Alvin Kamara. Michael Thomas was supposed to be there. They were supposed to be hoping to get something out of the tight end position with Adam Troutman. Like, there's not a lot there to get you excited with that offense. And now you don't have your best receiver? No. I told you, this feels like a down year for the Saints. I've said that already. That this doesn't feel like, hey, business as usual, insert Jameis Winston, keep the party going. This feels like an off year for them. I could be wrong, but the feeling's getting strong. And this kind of adds to that. All right, so I want to finish up the show with garbage time. And I got the perfect super chat to lead me right into this discussion. My guy, Captain Spartan 04. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, thoughts on Cleveland Guardians and how it affects Washington's future team name. Also, the report on 7 pillars of a team refusing to get vaccinated. So, my garbage time segment is centered around the Cleveland Indians changing their names to the Cleveland Guardians. And in case you haven't seen their new getup, this is what it entails. So these will be their new logos. The main logo will be the one you see in the top right-hand corner in red, with the baseball surrounded by the Guardian wings and the G logo. I don't know how I feel about it. It doesn't move me. But the Indians, if you remember and recall, last year quietly said, hey, we're going to change our name from the Indians. Stay tuned. We'll let you know when we figure out what the new name is going to be. And that was it. They didn't say shit else about it. It was vague. It was to the point. It was succinct. It was like, look, we don't know what the hell the name is right now, but we'll let you know when we got all that shit finalized. And then they didn't say anything else. And everybody was ragging on them like, what? That's all you going to give us? Like, you going to just tell us you're going to change the name and that is it? But that's how they went about it. And look how quickly they came up with some new shit. Now, they probably were playing around with all of these ideas in the background as they released that statement that, hey, we're going to change the name from Indians, but we don't have a new name. And we're not doing the Cleveland baseball team until we come up with a new name. So we're going to still be the Indians, but we working behind the scenes to figure out what the next move is going to be. Well, this is the next move, the Cleveland Guardians. So what do you guys think about that? And obviously, as my guy, Captain Spartan, referenced, what does that mean for the Washington football team? So it kind of got me to thinking, okay, they rolled out their new name and they did it rather quickly. Like, Washington's been mulling over this shit for what feels like forever. It really hasn't been that long. I mean, let's keep it in its proper perspective. Washington, this time last year, if you remember, it was last July when Washington got rid of the Redskin moniker. So it hasn't been forever. It just feels that way because we went through an entire season of Washington football team and we're going to go through another season with that moniker. So it feels like a very long time, but it really hasn't been that long. But the Indians, they released last year, oh, okay, we getting swept up in this Me Too movement. And yeah, before y'all come for our neck, we just gonna tell y'all we gonna change the name. We don't know to what yet, but we gonna change the name. And I don't know if they've been, working on this for years, and that was the right time to finally do it, or if they got their crack staff together, figured it out quickly, whipped that up, and now they're ready to go. But I just know that their process went a lot faster than Washington's process. Are there going to be fans that are going to be pissed off about the Guardians name and the logo and the likeness and all of that? Yeah, of course. You're not going to be able to appease everyone, but they got it done quickly. So I was looking at their situation. I was saying, what does that mean for Washington's situation? I'm like, the first thing I'm thinking of is, what the hell is taking Washington so long? If the Indians can get all of the different things that they needed to get situated, if they were able to dot all their I's, cross all their T's so that they could roll this out right now, what the hell is taking Washington so long? So I'm thinking the Indians did everything so quietly that you didn't have squatters sitting on names and things of that nature, so they were able to take care of their business without worrying about those types of things getting in the way. And I think that Washington is trying to do it in a way that it builds suspense. I think they've got a lot more repairing of an image and a fan base than to do than the Indians did, or the Guardians do. And so I think there's a little bit of that as well. So I think what Washington is looking to do is they're looking to get a name that requires a little bit more detail, a little bit more legal work maybe. And I think that they're gonna have a name and logo that they feel like is gonna rub people the wrong way. And there's nothing they can do about that. I've already said that whatever they come up with, even if it remains Washington Football Team or they go Washington Football Club, whatever they decide to do, they're not going to be able to appease everyone, and there will never be the attachment to the name that they once had with Redskins. So there's nothing that they can do. But I looked at that situation, and the one thing that I took away was, damn, they got that done pretty quick. What is the holdup with Washington? So we'll see what happens. As far as the report on 7 pillars of a team refusing to get vaccinated, I don't even know what you're referring to there. So I can't even answer that portion of your question. But I can just tell you that we had a long discussion. I know you got here a little bit later, but we had a long discussion at the top of the show about vaccines and getting vaccinated and what the NFL has essentially done, laying the smackdown on its personnel. It's going to be a really interesting. I think this is one of those stories that blows over. It's a big deal now because it's fresh, it's new. Players are just getting wind of this. I think the NFL really blindsided a lot of people with this. That's why it's such a big story. And then camp is about to get underway for a lot of teams, so it's becoming an even bigger story. But I think as we get to football, if we don't have any outbreaks, if everybody, COVID was a big deal last year, and then once we got to the games, it really wasn't until you had games have to be moved around. But that's the thing about football, more so than any other sport. There's so much noise off the field with football until the games start. And once the games start, all that other stuff fades to black. Nobody gives a shit about anybody's name or COVID or any controversies off the field or this, that, and the third. Michael Vick dog fighting, all that. That shit is a great story initially when there's nothing else to talk about and maybe the first 2 weeks of the season. But when the ball starts and you get into the nitty gritty of the season, don't nobody care about none of that extra shit. All those topics fade to black and the real focus becomes football. And that's what's going to happen with this situation as well. But we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me here on the 183rd installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. The Cleveland Guardians. I don't really know if I like the ring that has to it, but I'm not a Cleveland Indians fan, or a Cleveland Guardians fan. It doesn't really bother me one bit. It doesn't move me one way or the other, but I am a Washington football team fan. So when that name does come out, I am going to have an opinion on it. And it's not going to impact me one way or the other in terms of me, following the team and rooting for them. But I mean, I do have a vested interest. So we'll see what happens. But the Indians, now the Guardians, How long is it going to take getting used to that? And I think my guy Sean Mack was out there earlier. He's an Indians fan. I'd love to get his take on what he feels about the Guardians. So, anyway, I digress. You guys enjoy your weekend. I will do the same. Remember, short week next week, okay? Only in the office the first 2 days of the week. And then I am off on vacation Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And hopefully I'll be back in the office on Monday of the following week. So I won't see you again until August, after Tuesday. So prepare for a lot of content to come out early in the week. And also prepare for, hit or miss content the rest of the week while I'm out of the office. And if some big topics hit, I may or may not be able to get to you guys to give you my input on it. But trust me when I tell you this, when I get back from my vacation, we're going to hit the ground running and we will not look back. So prepare yourselves for a very short week here on the LouieTeeNetwork. And also with the podcast, you'll only get one episode next week. And then after that, we'll come back, hit the ground running, and really get into the upcoming NFL season. So with that said, I am your man, Louie T. Thank you guys for joining me. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys, take care. Have a good one. And if you haven't already done so, do me a huge favor. Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also hit that like button. Truly do appreciate you. If you guys are interested, new card video up on the CCS. Go check that out. I'm on a hot streak right now in terms of my rips. I went on a cold spell. Now I'm on a hot streak. So I'm riding that baby, and I'm going to probably continue to ride it. So if you're interested in that content, go and check it out. And thank you to all of you for the happy born day well wishes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really do appreciate you guys. With that said, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you on the other side. Have a good one.
LouieTeeNetwork.